The service invoker construct allows you to dynamically determine what service should be invoked during runtime and invoke it. Let's walk through an example of this. In this example, a parent hyperservice program called process.xml could call one of three hyperservice options. The first one is process_customer.xml, which takes a customer XML input, validates the data, and adds it to a backend system. When it's done, it will return a process ID. The next one is process_employee.xml, which takes an employee XML input, processes it, and returns a process ID. And finally, process_sales_order.xml takes sales order XML input, processes it, and returns a process ID. While these three each do something different, their contracts are the same. If we look at the parent hyperservice contract, its input is XML. It then determines the nature of the XML, and based on that determination, will dynamically invoke the appropriate one of the three hyperservices, and then return the process ID. Let's take a closer look at the program. Here's the service invoker. For this demo, we're going to delete it and then add it back in to walk through the configuration. To add the service invoker construct, click the button on the constructs toolbar and click on the canvas. When you do this, the Select a Representative Service dialog will open. In this case, I need to pick one of the three child hyperservices as a template hyperservice. Doesn't matter which one, as long as they all have the same contract. We're going to select process_customer.xml and activate it. Now, before we explore the connections, let's quickly look at the data switch. The data switch construct evaluates the incoming XML, and based on the value in the XML, either customer, sales order, or employee, it outputs the name of the appropriate hyperservice that the construct needs to dynamically invoke. So now if we look at the incoming flows to the construct, the return value from the data switch, remember, that is going to specify what hyperservice to run, maps to the service name. What about the project name and package name? In this case, the project and package have been created as constants, which we can add now. These fields can be determined as well, rather than hard-coded. And now the program inputs. In this case, the input is XML, which maps to the service inputs. Finally, let's quickly configure our outputs, which is just the process ID. Now we can save our hyperservice program. Now let's run the program and select some test case data. In this case, we'll select sales order. If the program is set up correctly, then the process ID will be 2000. And now we'll run the program with the test case data loaded. And if we check the outputs, we can see that the process ID is 2000. And that concludes this demo. You may now close this window.